Hello YouTubers. Well, Christmas stories, there are so many, and I've searched my archives and found 2 or 3, but most of them are far too long to read. But I have got one that I could offer you, but it is a Christmas story with a slight difference in that, well, Christmas time is fortunately a lovely happy time, a happy family time for most people, but my thoughts sometimes turn to those people who may not find Christmas the great joy that the rest of us do. And when I wrote this story, it coincided with a situation where a young friend of mine had been thrown out of his house and told to go and live in a ditch, and I wondered in my story what might happen at Christmas time to somebody who found themselves in that situation. This young man didn't go and live in a ditch, and he is now quite a prosperous farmer in his own right, and all turned out well for him, but it doesn't for many, and they are often people who, well, I'm concerned about, I suppose. So I will offer you the story, but there are a couple of things I need to tell you in that I will cut out quite a large lump of the story, which is far too explicit. I had, and hope still have, maybe quite a number of quite young people who watch my videos, and I don't think it would be appropriate for them, so I'm sure if the story flows all right that you will be able to bring your own imagination to the story. And the other point is that I personally hate foul language, but there is that sort of language in this story, but I hope you will accept that it is the language of the character and not the language of the author. And So I will take a drink and a deep embarrassed breath and offer you my story, which I have called Angels. The sound of music from somewhere in the distance roused him. He was cold. His sleeping bag provided little protection from the unforgiving, hard, damp floor. His hip was sore from the pressure, and as he became more alert and aware of his surroundings, he realized that he had shit himself. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. The voices of the singers accompanying the band filtered through the noise of the passing traffic. Angels, what a load of crap. Sweet little cherubs depicted so often by artists in their mythological pictures, aiming their arrows at lovers or blowing the wind to save the sailors from shipwreck. So where the fuck were they, and why didn't they shoot their stupid little arrows when his father said, "You can get out. I've had enough of your attitude and behaviour. Your headmaster's been on the phone again. They can't control you, and it looks like I can't either. If you think you're so grown up, then go and see how to survive on your own, or with your dodgy friends." Peace on earth and mercy mild. He had thought Benny was his angel of mercy when he offered him his gift of white powder. Some bloody angel, but he needed him now. Christ, how he needed him. Soon the shakes and the shivering would start. The snake which seemed to be in his stomach would writhe, and the bile would burn at his throat as he retched. He would, paradoxically, sweat at the same time as he shivered. He would draw up his knees and scream, "Fuck you, Benny." Mothers would hurry past, staring with disgust, clutching their children closer to their sides. He knew Benny would be in the cafe at dinner time and that he must make the effort to move. If he lay still for a while, he knew the spasm would pass. The sleeping bag gripped at his legs and shoulders as he wriggled onto his back to ease the pain in his hip. He straightened his stiff legs, flexed his toes upward to relieve his aching calf muscles. He tried to breathe deeply. The effort produced a sharp stabbing pain in his back. He coughed for some time, each one thrusting the dagger deeper. The exertion exhausted him. The pain made him feel sick again, and the burning taste of bile was still in his throat. He placed his hands at his sides, tried to relax every muscle in his body, starting with his toes and working upwards, but the tension in his abdomen defeated his efforts. He lay still and exhausted for a while until his breathing became easier, then, very slowly, sat up and waited for his body to adjust to the new position. The effort rekindled the painful coughing, which mercifully subsided as he rested and he tried to relax again. In this sitting position his breathing became easier. He was able to take deeper breaths and the oxygen began to restore life, of sorts. He realized that the shit that was once warm and comforting was now dry and crusty and was stuck to his body and underpants. His skin was roughened and sore. Glory to the newborn child. When his vision cleared a little, he could see that the music emanated from a Salvation Army band. From his position in the covered alley, he could see the brightly lit shops with their Christmas decorations and the shoppers carrying their bags, presumably loaded with gifts. Noticing their bags alarmed him, and he reached down to the bottom of his sleeping bag, relieved to find that his bag, containing his few essentials, underwear, sweatshirt, socks, razor, was still there. His thoughts turned to last Christmas, the memories of happier family times, and his mother and sister added to his depression. His father was a fucking dickhead. He guessed that it must be mid-morning. He knew that he had to summon up the effort to stand up and move. He had to get cleaned up, get some money, and most of all he had to get to Benny. He unzipped his sleeping bag and with his back to the wall eased himself into a standing position. He felt dizzy. The world around him seemed to be spinning, which made him feel sick again, but he forced himself to press hard against the wall for support until his disorientation passed. He took out his hold-all, then rolled up his sleeping bag, tied it with a length of rope. He pushed back the hood of his anorak, ran his fingers through his short blonde hair, laced up his trainers, and headed slowly and unsteadily to the main road underpass. All the cubicles in the toilets were vacant. He pushed open the doors until he found one that had some paper. It had a broken lock and the usual graffiti, but at least it had paper. He placed his sleeping bag and hold-all next to the toilet pan and removed his jeans and soiled underpants. He replaced his jeans, peeled off a considerable length of paper and went out to the wash basins where he wetted it. When he returned to the cubicle, he picked off most of the hardened shit, wincing as it pulled at his hairs, and wiped himself with the warm, sodden paper. He dried himself with another length of paper, after which he dressed using a relatively clean pair of pants and socks, and took the soiled garments to the wash basin where he rinsed them. After shaving, without the benefit of soap, not too much of a problem for him, since being fair and young his beard was not tough, he left the toilets, leaving a legacy of one block toilet pan, to get some money and find Benny. He felt weak and hungry, but fresher and considerably better than he had an hour earlier. He would take his soiled clothes to the laundrette, where his pale complexion, blonde hair and forlorn look would always win him the sympathy of one of the ladies. Course you can, love. Hardly worth spending money on those few things. Put them in with mine. When he left, it was nearly midday. The cafe was not far away, only the other side of the park, and he figured he could get there in time if he were lucky. There were usually punters at lunchtime. He had to get to the cafe now that he had enough for the fix. As he walked towards the exit, he saw the park keeper approaching the gate. He'd seen him many times before, but had always been able to avoid him. He looked big and threatening. Life on the street had taught him that although you may not have done anything wrong, your appearance was enough to incite suspicion, abuse or confrontation. His first thought was to turn round and leave by the gate that he had entered, but this would mean a hell of a long walk around the outside of the park to the cafe. He was weak and tired and he couldn't face it. He carried on walking, and as he approached the gate he could see that the keeper was waiting. The keeper was black and big. He wore blue overalls and a yellow oilskin jacket of the type issued to council workers. The wheelbarrow he was pushing was filled with leaves and rubbish. On his head he wore a blue woolly hat, pulled down quite low so that his eyes were nearly covered. "I want a word with you, son," he said. "Why, I ain't done nothing." "Don't give me no lip. I know exactly what you've been doing. Think I'm stupid or something? I see everything what goes on in this park. Now I don't care, 'cause I want no more hassle than this stinking job gives me already. Unless I was to see children involved, I figure I don't want no trouble. I just want to go home at 5 o'clock and mind my own business." So you look like a nice kid. I don't want to know why you got yourself like you are, but I only want to warn you that the law is keeping a watch. It's all part of a clean-up or something, so just watch it and don't give yourself any more trouble than you already got. With a huge, gnarled hand, he pushed his hat back a little, exposing more of his face and his widely spaced brown eyes. He unzipped his coat, put his hand through the opening in his overalls, and fumbled into the pockets of his trousers beneath. When he pulled it out, it held a £5 note. "Here, take this and spend it on something to eat instead of that shit you're on. Now get out of here and watch it." He took the note and looked into the large open eyes of his benefactor. "Thanks, mister, I'll stay away." "That'd be a good idea, son." And then, as he picked up his barrow to walk off, he paused and asked, "What's your name?" "Danny," he replied, surprised that he'd given him his real name. He never did that. "What's yours?" he asked. "Angelo, would you believe?" He smiled, showing a row of brilliant white teeth, one of which was capped with gold, and laughed. "Think my mother thought I looked like a fucking angel. Fancy me, a fucking angel." Well, there we are. I told you it was unconventional, but I don't know. I worry about me sometimes. When have I ever been conventional? But it's a story with a difference, and I suppose could show that angels can appear in all sorts of guises, and so that's my story for this week, and next time I'll get rid of all these stories, and I've got some things to tell you about characters that have passed through my life that I hope might amuse you. But until then, as always, goodbye.